I'm sure many of you shop online. It could be that you want to buy your clothes online. So imagine you wanted to go shopping. Instead of going to the shops, you could decide to buy your food from Tesco's online.
Minim se mum bebre no mon kwadwadi dan mu na ekoto mo ne ma na mo de mu ofie na makra ne de abrem ebi wo ho a obehun se Tesco fo de na duane nyina be fie o yi de apro no ane de abrew ebi wo ho nso a na woto ne ntade next num online ebi wo ho a Amazon ene woto ne ne ma obi so to tie wan mu nyina mo ka ho.
As he said, it could be you decide to buy your clothes from Next or Primark online instead of going shopping, or you could buy your furniture from maybe Ikea or Argos. But has any of you ever bought your drugs over the internet? So this is the presentation which is going to explain the dangers of it.
Obi wo ha Ikea won ko ho wo fia na teta ewo ni computer so near the abre no wardrobe no de ne magum. Na mo so amoto de ewo internet so to no to pay ya ma prescription e manti ukwa internet so anu ato bie mu die ni.
Okay, I'm sure all of you know the definition of a medicine, but I'm going to give it to you anyway just to make you aware.
Ade ya friend dro mu nyina mu nim na drug mu nyina mu nim beka ho asem.
Okay, so medicine is defined as any substance which is used to treat an illness or a disease.
Ade biara ye de ko yare anase yede esa ahomre eno ni eduro.
Okay, there's many types of medicines. I've just put down a few as examples. We have the antihypertensives. They're used to treat high blood pressure. For example, if you're suffering from blood pressure, you'll be given these drugs to help reduce your blood pressure. Okay, we also have antibiotics, which treat bacterial infections, which include sore throats.
Any what to pay any nuanu ma no so say wo hum baby yo ya na say mpo uminimu aye ya de ekun.
And also we have the analgesics, so they're pain relievers. So if you're suffering from a headache or you've got a stomach ache, you would take maybe aspirin or paracetamol. Any
wo atipaye dro ni ade obi so mitiri pa mi paracetamol was san say bewu senchewe no de agu nanum no awe.
Okay, so I'm going to explain how medicines are developed. Okay, most of the medicines, they're made in the laboratories, but it's not a straightforward process. It takes about 10 to 12 years for the whole development process. So, okay, so basically what happens is the scientists will develop a molecule and they want to know if the drug will be safe to use in humans, so they'll test it in animals. It could be rats or mice. So what they'll do is they'll inject the animal with the drug, or they will actually give a dose of the drug to the animal. They want to look for signs.
Na de ye say edro no wo mo aye wie no yes mo yemfa wo akura ana danko mo yemfa wo emoa ne yenhwe de be ye say ebenya won sunsunsun aso bi a o mo yesei ansa ne nipa enya bi.
Okay, some of the signs that they will look for are maybe if it develops a cancerous growth, or if it affects their breathing, or if it reduces their weight loss.
Na o mo de awo aboa no o mo hwe say emaboa no ha ne home ma ne home yie anase emanu enya kokuram anase emani mani ba aboa ne ho nansana omo agiatum.
Okay, so when they've done the testing in animals, they will go on to the next stage, which is the human testing, and this is called clinical trials.
Na so omo de esom wa hwesa afeni de abeni paso na eno na so nipa hwese wonso benya sunsunsun so ben.
Okay, so the clinical trials is broken into 3 phases, and the aim of the clinical trials is to find out if the drug is safe, is it good for human use, the quality, if it's a good product to a high standard, and the third is it effective? So if you've got a drug, if someone's suffering from a stomach ulcer, will the drug actually treat the ulcer? Will it cure the ulcer?
Enunti se de so nipa hwe a ewo akwan miensa ye hwese enti eya na fe yasan ahwese ano edre se tumi sayare no anase ano enye den na fe yasan ahwese eye edro no edimu ebi wo ha na power abi ene ede nema fremu.
Okay, so what happens is once the company has collated all the results for the animal studies and the human studies, they put together something that's called a dossier, and they will submit the application to the health authority in that particular country.
Na se adwumadie no a womo yedro no womo de somwahwe eso nipa hwe na ehun nsem nyina ya twere enokrata mu se pani na fe yede akọ aban ho se ne ayanyani na monhwe sampa.
Okay, and the aim of this dossier is to apply for a license to sell the drug to the market, so we get access, the public get access to the drug.
Na krata womo atwere no saa bebre no a yede kọ aban ho no de womo de ya no se yede pe dasese afiri aban ho.
Okay, on the previous slide I should have said that in the UK the regulatory health authority is called the MHRA. I don't know if any of you have heard about it, but it stands for the Medicines and Healthcare Regulation Authority.
Na ha wo UK ha no ye wo aban no ni aginatufo bi a omo hwe enuro ene ayarsa ehun omo na ehwe so.
Okay, so why do we need a regulatory body? The main reason for the body is to protect the public health through regulation. So they want to make sure that the drugs that we have access to are safe in the market.
Na sad ginatufo yi omo na eye emra efa enuro no ho na de omo peso omo ya ne se yen tunuro no wo na nkrofo no mu na emom ye behwe se bibia esisi na kwan so pepepe.
Okay, so in clinical trials what happens is the drug is first tested on healthy people, a small group of healthy volunteers, and when the results are successful, the next stage of clinical trials is they test it on another group of people who are suffering from the sickness. So if they have high blood pressure, they'll test it on that group, and if it reduces their blood pressure, it could be maybe 50 people, they will do a third phase trial which is on maybe about 200 people with blood pressure just to see if it reduces the blood pressure.
Na de omo ye ne se yedikan e de so nipa a omo apomuden ehwe ansa na ye de ama omo ankasa a omo yare no na omo fa nipa akra bi omo edikan ba no a omo apomuden de tu hu achefo afa ye de aso omo ewo yare no ahwe na bia ye hwe nipa ba aduonum na de aso mo ahwe na ahwe se bia na omo jabroso ye nhwe se betimi adwo ano na se betimi atu ase ana se enka no kra.
Okay, well, I don't know, there was in 2006 there was an example of a trial disaster which happened in the UK. Basically what happened is there were healthy men who they tested, a company found a drug. This was a small drug molecule to treat inflammation, so it could have been used to treat arthritis. They decided to test the drug on a group of humans, but it caused serious effects. It caused a lot of systemic organ failure in a lot of the subjects, so the trial had to be stopped. If you look at the next slide, there's a picture of what happened to one of the patients. His hands literally got burnt off. So what happened is when the MHRA were notified of this, they had to stop the trial and the company had to stop the production of the molecule and go back to do further tests.
Ne ben fie nso ni na omo sodure ahwe ye de so omo wa pomuden ahwe na ya awere hosam se nipa bebre nya yare na ohunu mfoni ye dawei akwa na fe na ne nsa no nyina atoto nsa no atoto se de ohunam ewelemina no.
And one thing about these trials is when they do them, they offer incentives, like they'll say we'll give you £200 if you'll take part in this trial. So it could be a good incentive for some people. They think, oh, you know, I can get extra money. You could be a student and you need money to pay off your loans or your living expenses, but you should be aware of the risks involved.
Ebra eba sa ne ma yeyi eduro no efiri ho na bi wo ho a so sa eduro edi so nipa hwe de eno ne kwa me fa so nyam sika ebo ani anu ode ne ho ko na bi a wo ye school ni wo pesika kreatua school fees no ode ne ho ko so mo mfa me enson hwe mo hwe yie na nyesika nyina ne yedie.
Okay, so this is one of the reasons why a regulatory body is a good idea. If the MHRO, if the drug was just able to be sold in the country, can you imagine? We had no regulations. What would have happened to the population? It would have been a disaster.
Nanka sa enro ye nkrofo yiye enanka emra bie ni ho efa ho a enanka obi atimi ye ne dura no oton a ka ba hunu ne ebesie ka oman nkrofo befa yare bebre nanka bebre benya ohaw.
Okay, so another reason why we have regulations, before the 1960s, as far as I am aware, there were no regulations for drugs in a lot of the countries. So a pharmaceutical company could make a medicine and just sell it.
Ansana fe apima hankro de osia ba no na emra no nheda enye de na emra ni ho nti na nkrofo eye nro no omo ade aba ne yeton.
So in the 1960s there was a drug called thalidomide. It was a drug for morning sickness in people who were pregnant. So pregnant women would take it prior to delivery. But what was found is that when the mothers delivered their children, a lot of them had deformed limbs. Some of them had missing arms and missing legs.
Na afi apima hankro de osia emu ho no na enuro bi bae ne yɛfrɛ thalidomide na sɛ enuro no ne yɛde ma apemfoɔ ansa na wɔn awo na ɛma no ɛnonom yɛ no afei deɛ mmɔfra bɛwo no bi a bɛwo na ne nsa koro ni hɔ anaasɛ ne nan kontono.
So, as you can see in this slide, this shows some of the children who were born at the time.
Na sabre no de eduro no ye mmofra ebi na wohuni.
And they're called the thalidomide babies.
Na ye de eduro no eto mmofra no din.
So when this event happened, this caused a lot of drug regulation to be implemented.
Na we ba no hu se da bi ya monro ho ban a ebe ha yen nti wo mo ye mra bebre tu nro ho.
Okay, so what are the benefits of medicine?
Okay,
we treat, it's basically to treat our illness to make us feel better. Okay, some of the medicines, they cannot cure the illness, they only help us to relieve the symptoms in the long term. I've just put down an example of aspirin. We all know aspirin is a pain reliever.
Na the friend aspirin ya mo amonim science no friend salicylic acid no.
Okay, basically it's used to reduce pain caused by headaches, arthritis, fever and swelling and also heart conditions.
Na so hu tutu a ana se utri paw ana won asasabro edi wonyan ana se bunachew ho popopo na wanumbi.
But we have to remember that all drugs have side effects. So some of the negative side effects that aspirin can cause is upset stomach, vomiting, stung up bleeding and kidney failure.
Eduro bi esa yare no esa woni nsunsuanso a eno nso eha nipadua no na aspirin wo hoi onuma na woyam etutu ema wote ya ewo etimi mebinum fe ebinum na womo ensun numu no emoja efifiri emu na etimi kura ema wo sa de bobobo mu efre no kidney no wo sa no etimi ema esai kura.
So that's why we need to be aware of the risk. We don't only take medication, but we need to be aware of the side effects that can affect us.
Enunti ye wo say ye hwe yiye ewo de enuro nde ba emfuati paye enkoji yefun yare.
Okay, so now I'm going to talk about the number of ways that we can obtain medicines. There are many different ways we can obtain medicines. Okay, one of the ways is over the counter without a prescription. They're called OTC medicines. You can see examples below. We have Tixilix for coughs and colds. Calpol, we usually give it to children when they've got fever or temperature. And Benylin for chesty coughs. And we've also got Lemsip and Anadin as well.
Na enro bi ni Tixilix wadro ebi ene Calpol nkwala paracetamol no na afi Benylin chesty eno onso eka senro no ho ukwa isi wono akotobi. Okay,
for these ones you don't have to go to the doctor to get a prescription.
You can get
them from the supermarket or the pharmacy.
But
you need to make sure that you read the instructions for use, because if it says use 3 times a day, you need to stick to the specified dose. It may say do not use in children below the age of 12 years old. In all of the drugs, you have usually a leaflet called the patient information leaflet, and this will explain the administration of how you're supposed to take the drug, where you're supposed to store it, whether you store it in the fridge or at room temperature. So you need to be aware of all this information.
Na bribia obeto senro no ya na krata ahemu a ekirawo se de obesi afa anom no momi enhwe no yie bia se atrenketo an baako osu atipaye na no aye den dodo no afa nkwanta no ahwie agum no anom esa obekum ho.
Okay, one good thing about these medicines, especially in the UK, is even though we can buy them just over the counter, they are all regulated by the authorities before being put out on the market. Another way we can obtain medicine is from the pharmacy. In this situation, the pharmacists have the medicine behind the counter, so you can't actually go to the shop and take it yourself. You have to go and speak to the pharmacy. So for example, if you're suffering from diarrhea, you can go to the pharmacy and explain your condition, and then he will advise you as to what the best medication would be. Basically, you can't actually take them yourself. He will advise you, tell you how to take the medication, and then
eno de wuntimi enkoto no se de opebia wo se wo kọ de onim enuro owo nuro hu nim de no ho na waka wo haw se obi a meyam hwie na wo se ne twen no apaduro no no akire ne kwan a befa so anom kama.
Okay, next slide. The third way you can get medicines is by prescription from the doctor, and we're all aware of this method. Basically, you'll go to the doctor if you're not feeling well, and they'll prescribe you some medication to take.
Na de etoso miensa eni nia ubekoduruyefo ho na wahwe watie wasem no wahwe wakari wo yare na hwe no wahwe duru a efata na watwera ma na de krata na ko watue sika kakra bi ne de amount.
Okay, what are some of the reasons as to why they have prescription-only medicines? One of the reasons is it protects you from accidentally taking or buying the wrong drug or dose.
Na de ntia ye sanro ye ma aduruyefo na twere krata ma de kogye nse ye mpese obenum amana broso anase ebi a wunnim na wakwakonom na ko haw enti oduruyefo akire wo de a.
Another reason is to allow close monitoring of the patient's reaction to the drug. So basically what happens is if you go to the doctors and you're not well, he may prescribe 200 milligrams of a drug for you to see how it works, and he'll say come back in 2 or 3 weeks just to check whether your symptoms have improved or not. If it doesn't improve, he may increase your dose to 400 milligrams, or you may be getting other reactions as well. So he will be able to monitor you closely to see what the best dose will be for you to take.
Na de etosum yenu no se oduruyefo ma o se nro ya no wo hwe se de duro no besi asawo ya de se de besi adi dwuma e wo nipaduanum tibi o se okọ na konom wei nom no bia mienu na mienu mprensa na bra na otu mienu na menhwe wo sa kwa no ahwe de duro no aye afa yare no ho enu nti ehu hia yie se se nro no oduruyefo na de bema wo.
Okay, and the other 2 points are to make sure that you don't abuse the dosage. You don't take more than you should, as we've already explained. Okay, there's another way we can get medicines now, which is on the increase. This is over the internet. Basically, we all have now access to internet sites who sell prescription-only medicines. They should only really be prescribed by the doctor, and it's on the increase in the UK.
Na se no ekwan ba ko abetimi atonro nso ewo amansanten tan yesene wi ma frɛ ne internet yi so na de ye ne se ewo se senro no oduruyefo na atwere krata amawo na wode eto.
Okay, I've just got a slide of an example of a screenshot of the internet, so you can type in Google without prescription and you'll have so many sites that will come up.
Hunu sa Google ya mo de hwehwe ne ba no waso betimi atodura oduruyefo ntwere krata bia mawo.
Okay. Why do people buy prescription medicines on the internet? One of the reasons is self-diagnosis. So someone may feel that they know what's wrong with them. If they're suffering from an illness, they know what's wrong, so they can diagnose their own illness.
Na dentina enkrofo to enro ewa internet so yi eni se ebinum ho a woni anim won yare ya so miami nim me hu minim yare ne mfine ya ne ya ebia na niti enso wote ya no wa ha oso miami nim yare no no akoto na duro no de ama ne ho. But
there is a danger in this because you're not a qualified doctor, and maybe you may diagnose something and it may be another sickness, so you may make your condition worse. If you're suffering from chest pain, for example, and you may think it's heartburn, but you could be suffering from a heart attack. So it's very, very important to be careful about purchasing such drugs on the internet.
Na sanroi tone ehu ebi se wonye obi a wo aduro ye ene nipadua no ho nimde bebre ebi ana okoko eye otwiritwiri uso na anu midi anwa no dodo ena ama mebo eye mehyehe ebi so anu wakoma ena entimi enye adwuma yie enu nti hwe na koduruyefo no wonhwe no akire waduru a ehiama wo.
Okay, and there's another reason, which is easy access to medicines. Okay, basically you may be thinking it's too much hassle to go to the doctors, I have to book an appointment, every time I ring it's engaged, I have to go, I haven't got time to take time off work, so it'll be much easier to be in the comfort of your own home with your laptop and order your medicine.
No kwan ba konsu ni se baby a wokọ wo GP ho no ebi a wo be frɛ asi na de wunya kwan no asa frɛ kina wo se ayema enu nti wo hwa a wo so baby am GP wo kura no baby am tie na ware yie afenzo kura wo kwa wo mhwɛ wo a so we de etisa wo ho beba o ye ma hwe na kontie mi a mema me ho aduro emboa wo.
Okay, so basically, if you see these two medicines, I don't know if you can tell the difference, but they look identical. One of them is fake and one of them is real. Can you tell which one's fake?
Na sandro ye wo hɔ anim ye no baako ɛyɛ papa baako ɛnyɛ na wo du ani hwɛde a wontumi nhunu nea ɛnyɛ no enso koro nye.
Okay, so many experts have warned us about buying prescription drugs over the internet. They've also said that they found that when they found counterfeit drugs, a lot of them contain things such as rat poison, brick dust. They want to dilute the actual quantity because it's a lot of people who are trying to make money.
Na nipa bebre sika peno akwani mu yie enu nti nro no omo papa no ho no omo aye de emfata afrem na ye de niema niema gum a enu nso etimi ma oyare bi wo kura ye de nkuraduro egum ebi wo ho a starch ye de hyentade yi na ye de egum enti emwa.
And they haven't been regulated as well, so you know it's your choice if you're deciding to buy those drugs.
Na say bebo de wo internet nu nyina ho ban na say de mmara besisuo nti enu de for day tuna ne ye ton wan hwe yi a no kofa yare foforo.
Okay, so basically one of the dangers is they could be out of date, expired.
Ebi won so anaduro no ne bretwam eni se wonum bieo.
They could be fake, as I showed you in the previous slide.
Ebi wo ha na enye papa.
Too strong or too weak, so they could have diluted it or made it over the concentration it should normally be.
Na unuma edure yi o minum ya yare no ko da bi anu odire che yare no nti emwa obi won so a anu omre obenum ate say Poundland ade utso mu anabu.
And as I said before, it's not approved by regulatory authorities and there are dangerous ingredients which may be banned.
Na bi won so a yen twere de ememe ohun se drone papa ni yie ye twere bibia gu hu a ohun na daka anu a so we de bia no ato.
Okay, so I've just listed a few medicines that you can buy on the internet. Prozac for antidepressant, asthma inhalers, powerful painkillers, antibiotics, Xenical, a weight loss drug, Clomidid, a fertility drug, and another drug for psoriasis.
Na sa enura wabubo bodin o he Prozac ni nuanum nyina ye to on internet so yanom ye mu bia nye duruyefo a yetimi me hu aduro mu me enko GP ho na won so ye nhwe.
Just to be aware, it's only a handful of sites which provide genuine medications online. They would usually ask you for a prescription before you purchase. So these are a few tips that you need to be aware of online.
Na internet so adu to no wo bia kakra bi na wo mo de ombebu saw say e de anwuma na duruyefo de ama wansa ne ato ama saafo no de ene eye.
Okay, basically you have to make sure that your website is a state licensed pharmacy and the Royal Pharmaceutical Society of Great Britain has a logo. You have to make sure that they will ask you for a prescription before you purchase the drug.
Na enro no awo to no hwe se ehun adansidie no ekoyie na wo mo ebo enro ho ban no wo mo enso hyede ebo ho ya bibia wona kwan so ansa no wato.
Okay, one thing I forgot to mention is a lot of us, we use a lot of herbal preparations as well. A lot of them haven't been tested and we tend to mix them with the drugs that were given by the doctor. So we need to be aware of those. Sometimes they sell them in Ghanaian shops and things. We have to make sure because we don't know how toxic they are and we don't know what the ingredients are contained in them.
And ebi won so enro no bi won so ayen nkrofo ya na afrefra lafia bitters ni alomo bitters ni hwanhwan. Omienhwe ni ye bruyefo bi anhwe mu ye bunu sakoto asa pani na ye wonom na wonom hwe yie na o se wo nipadua no.
Okay, in conclusion, basically we all know that God doesn't need medicines to treat our illnesses, but he's allowed medical practice to progress. He's given us wisdom and knowledge to progress medical practice. But in spite of all these things, we need to be aware of the risks and not take things blindly, not take medications blindly.
Ampase senye bone enedi we nyina ba nka na onyankopon fam de onhia enro ena wode asese yare na bone na di we nyina ba na onyame amenyansa no amani panso nimde ne akwankyira ebetumi de asiesie enura ebetumi aboa ni padua no obra ye yare no mumienhwe yie ne emfa bibia na kwanso se de be ya ebetumi atena setenapa.
Okay, we may not have a choice in taking medicines, but our utmost priority should be to depend on God for both our spiritual and our physical healing and continue to trust in God as our healer.
Obo ne yare ensa de esitie no setie bia age so onu maduro kakra yiw eye na emom ne ehia pan se ye de ho beto onyame so ne yɛbɔ mpaeɛ bebredi a yɛfuna to hɔ Yesu no a na ɔsa yareɛ tetete no ɔda so te ase ya ogu so sa yareɛ to do ho to no so a obetumi aboa wo.
Okay, I'd just like to end with the quotation which is Matthew 9:22. But Jesus turned him about, and when he saw her, he said, "Daughter, be of good comfort, thy faith hath made thee whole." And the woman was made whole from that hour. So our faith as well can heal us.
Matthew etire nkrunchemu aduonu mienu no na Yesu dane ne ho no hwɛ abaawa no na ɔka kyerɛ nse ababa wugidie agye nkwa na sɔre na kɔ ampa ye gidie no se ye Yesu mu gidie ne ye Nyame mu gidie a obetumi agina saa gidie te sɛ snapi aba no so na wasa yare.
Thank you, Christy. So we'll stop buying all those drugs that kills every illness.
Yare bia hu aduro na dia ye ne tototo no a esa yare nyina bie no ebeja ato.